All right,
Good morning,
welcome
everyone.
everyone.
How's it
Wow,
going?
dude, I can't believe we're on episode 4 again. Like,
It's fun like fast.
like, I'm just thinking this is just so amazing that we keep going every single week. So, thanks for always like being by my side here. We're gonna have to, of course, show the mugs because I
Yeah.
got a sneak peek of Ben's mug and it was insane. My mug's not that cool. I mean, my mug's just dream. So, for those of you out there, you know, dream, go big, go strong, keep going. You want to have a YouTube channel like this? You want to have a show that is fun? I mean, I hope this is fun. Well, then do it, dream it. Ben, what's your mug look like?
Well, today I have this one. It's a little cat mug. I've seen this on TV a lot of times, so I'm not being super original with it, but I love it. It's a good one. The only problem is when you see that these ears like poke me right in the face, so that's the only issue with it.
Man,
It's more for looks.
I love it. I love it. All
But
right.
yeah, I just want to have a couple quick notes for today's show. Again, we're going to do another giveaway. It's been really hard to get the stuff to people though, so what we're going to do today is a little bit different. All you have to do is put hashtag Excel today in Twitter, and we're going to just choose a random tweet on there for the winner. And again, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be 3 live trainings in Excel through Learnit, which is our the company both me and Joe work for, and it's the company that brings all this for you. We do training, live training every single day except weekends. But it's 6 hours of training, well, 7 hours if you count lunch. And you have a live instructor there. We go through all these files. It's stuff we do for all these Fortune 500 companies every single day. So it's the value of that is about $870. So we'll DM you on Twitter if you put hashtag Excel today, and we're just going to randomly choose one of the hashtags later and reach out to you through DM. Also, just a note: the exercise files, the in the chat, there's the link there, and also there's a link for the files in the video description. And lastly, just cleaning up for next week, we are going to have an Excel VBA expert, Chris Mortimer, on to talk about something that people have asked numerous times, which is what is the future of Excel VBA with all these other programming languages coming out, and with the Power Automate coming out. Like where does Excel VBA stand for the future? So we're going to have Chris on to talk about, like what is the future of Excel VBA. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Joe. I think it's going to be you for the rest of the day today.
Oh, I'm the guest star. Oops. Yeah, I forgot to tell everyone. Surprise! I'm the guest star today. I thought, what should we do? I know that we talk about a lot of Excel on this channel and a lot of things Microsoft. So before we even get into our just Excel today, I do want to tell you we are going over Power Query. It's an amazing tool that I use all the time. It's part of the Power series. So if you're used to Power BI, Power Pivot, Power Query is one of those. It's going to transform your life. I say transform for a reason. I'll show you later on. But before we even get into that, I do want to just shout out there. Uh, I mean, I was training on Monday, and I'm sure most of you were working on Monday. Ben, I know you were working on Monday.
Always.
And yeah, and did anyone else have any issues with Microsoft Teams, Azure? Because it went down. It was unbelievable. It was one of the biggest outages in a while. So, Microsoft news today, Microsoft actually announced an apology for everyone. Just let us know in the comments. Did that affect you in any way? Were you like working? What'd you do for the rest of the day? A lot of these companies and a lot of individuals depend on Teams for communication and collaboration. So let me know in the comments, what did that outage do to you? Did it affect you at all? I'm just curious because it did affect me. It affected Ben, and Microsoft announced that apology, and I will get some more details on why that even happened. Were they doing an update? Did something go wrong on their end? Why? Because it affected internationally. So that's your Microsoft news today. Back to you, Ben. No, I'm just
Well, I
kidding.
did say it didn't affect me personally, but like I couldn't talk to anybody, and other people couldn't talk to me in Teams, and we use Teams, you know,
Yeah,
all day long for all our meetings and collaboration. I mean, I would say I'm on Teams like at least 4 to 5 hours a day, just talking to people, and
it's
yeah,
crazy.
not having people to talk to. It was a little bit nice, but then we just moved on to Zoom or just
Yeah,
the phone. So like, we may do, but yeah, it was a headache not being able to use Teams and be able to easily access files and stuff like that. Um, yeah.
crazy.
How about you said you were teaching a class though, right? And it
I
went
was
down.
teaching. I was teaching teams. I was doing a training. It was going great. A great training. We were going over teams, and about three quarters in, it stopped, and I was like, "This can't be right. Hold on. Let's try another computer." I tried the other computer. That didn't work. I was like, "Let me pull my phone out real quick. That will definitely work." Pull my phone out. That didn't work. I'm like, "Okay, well, Teams is down." Um, the good news is everyone was understanding because while they were following along, their teams was down too. So they're like, Joe, it's not just you, it's everyone. I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been a good look in front of a client if it was just us, because then they would think
Yeah,
it was our fault, right?
yeah, exactly. It was so great that I was like, oh, yours is messed up too? It's good. They're like, no, Joe, it's not good. Well, for me, it is. Um, all right. So what we're going to do now is let's get right into Power Query. We have a long time to talk about Power Query, so let's do it. Let's have fun.
Yeah, and just a heads up, guys. Again, the link to the files that Joe is going to be using is in the chat right now, and it's also in the video description. So you want to get those and open those up. And right now, I'm going to hand everything over to Joe and have at it, Joe.
Awesome. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. We're going to have some fun today with Power Query. Today, we're really going to talk about how we can take data, pull it into Power Query, and then transform it. So this is going to be really great here. First thing I'm going to do is open up my Power Query files. Once again, Ben said it's in the comments, in the description as well. So feel free to follow along with me if that's something you like to do. So the first one I'm thinking about using is, if you're following along, let's open up the text part example. Hey, open that up, text part example. And what I have here is some simplistic data, just a bunch of random people. And has anyone ever got data like this? It's come from some sort of database and it just looks horrible. That happens to a lot of my data and I have to clean it up. Now you're probably thinking, well, do you really have to get rid of these spaces on your own? A lot of people come up here and do that. They'll, you know, don't do that. A lot of people will change. This is all capitalized. They'll do that by hand. Don't do that. And they'll go all through this and they'll do it all manually. It takes them too long to do. So instead of doing that, we're going to take this, pull it into Power Query, transform it, and then load it back into Excel. So let me show you what that looks like. The first thing I'm going to do is select my data. So I'm going to just take my data, Control A. I'm going to, since I'm talking about data, head over to the Data tab right over here. And in the Data tab, this is where we can get and transform the data. So I'm going to just click on Get Data. And what you can do is you can pull the data in from a file source. So I'll just go over some of these file sources with you real quick. We have Azure, right? There we go. We were just talking about that. Power BI, once again. Databases like SQL servers, Access database, Oracle. So if you see anything here that you're like, wow, Joe, I actually use this, you can pull it into Power BI, Power Query. Files, workbook, so you can pull an Excel workbook, a text file, or a CSV, which is a comma separated value file, an Excel file. And then JSON, XML, PDFs, SharePoint folders, everything that you need. But we're going to use today from a table or range because, well, this is a table. So I'm just going to click in my table, select from table/range, and it's going to load it right into Power Query. And now we're in Power Query. Welcome. If this is your first time in Power Query, no worries. As you can see, it's still very Microsoft feel. For instance, we have our ribbon right here, and we also have tabs like the Home tab, the Transform tab, Add column, and View tab. And in those tabs, we have command groups like the Transform command group. And in those command groups, we have the commands. So, very similar to the way that it feels Microsoft, but it's so much more powerful. Now, you may notice that, let's say I did something weird. Let's say I clicked on this by accident and I removed this column. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. How do I undo that? A lot of people get nervous because they use Control Z to undo the keyboard shortcut, and it doesn't work. They go up here, they're like, Joe, undo is not there. What do I do? Well, in Power Query, it's a little different. You may notice that if you go all the way to the right here, we have applied steps. Now, these applied steps will show every step that you've done thus far. So, for instance, I removed that column, it shows me. I changed the type. Now, you might be saying, well, Joe, you didn't really do these two steps, and that actually automatically happens during the transfer. So once they pull the file into Power Query, what it does is it links the source of the file, which was Excel, and then it changes it to a change type, which is the Excel file itself. All right, so we have the source and the change type. But I'm going to click on Remove Columns, and it's going to bring back that column for me. So what do we want to do here? Well, we just want to simply take this data and transform it. So I'm going to do this. The first thing I notice is I don't need the ID. So I'm going to click ID, go to the Home tab, and we're going to just click Remove Column. Boom. The next thing I noticed was that white space, this leading white space here. Yeah, it's not looking good for us. So I'm going to click on the first name column, and I'm going to hold down my Control key and select the next column. And there you go. How do I know they're selected? Well, simply because they are now a green tint. So now that I have the first name and the last name selected, I'm going to go to the Transform tab, right up top. And in that Transform tab, we have something called the Format tool, which is found in the Text Column command group. So Transform tab, Text Column command group, Format. Now, my favorite thing about Format is it has so many tools that I use all the time. Lowercase will make everything lowercase. Uppercase will make everything uppercase. And of course, capitalize each word will capitalize each word. And you'll see here that that's actually something I can use later on. All of these are capitalized. Some of them are all lowercase, and some of them are just right. Same thing on the Mr. and Mrs. So we'll take care of that a little later, but for right now, we're just trying to clean up this white space here. And they have a little tool called Trim. Now, Trim removes the leading and trailing white spaces from each cell. So watch how cool this is. Ready? This is called magic. When you click on it, boom. How beautiful is that, right? Now we can take care of the capitalization problem. So I'm going to select Title, and if you hold the Shift key down and you select the last name column, it'll select everything. I'm then going to go to Format, and now I'm going to capitalize each word, fixing that data. The last thing that I want to do here is I actually want to join them all together or merge them together so that it can be a full name. The title, the first name, and the last name all in one column. And since I already have them selected, why not actually do this by going to right next to Format, you'll see Merge Columns. This is going to merge the columns, and it works very similar to concatenation. So if you're used to the concatenate function, this is exactly the same thing. I'm going to click on that. It's going to pop up this little dialog box, and it's going to say, all right, Joe, do you want something separating all of this together, or do you just want it all together? Now, I want to make sure to select space, because if I don't select space here, well, then it would come out looking like this. I'll take the first one, for example. It would be Mr. Steve Zavala. And the problem with that is, well, as you can see, it doesn't look right. So instead, what we can do is put the space in, and then it's going to ask us to name the column, which is optional. I like to call it full name. We click OK. Look how beautiful. The last thing we have to do, since we're still in Power Query, is go back home, close and load it, and watch what happens. Bing, 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 boom. It is the full name. So I'm going to stop right there and ask, does anyone have any questions? Are there anything coming up in the comments? What do you guys think of Power Query? Is this something that you love now? So I'm just going to take a look if there's anything coming in.
Hey, Joe. Yeah, we got a couple questions. I can pop them up on the screen here. One has to do more with fixing a macro. I'm thinking maybe we'll save that one for a little later. But
Okay.
did have one from um, Bremer here. He wanted to learn more about, how can he use this maybe to analyze the data. Like he's talking about using Excel, but Power Queries kind of goes hand in hand with Excel. So maybe we can kind of get into this a little bit.
Yeah, no worries. So typically what you can do is when you're using like something like Power Query, you can create new columns. You can pull columns out. So you can talk about taking data and then being able to either transform it for analysis, right? For instance, let me show you an example here of where we would want to analyze the data a little differently. So I'm going to just close this out, and you don't have to save it either. Let's say, for instance, let's do this. We're going to be going up to text to rows, all right, text to rows column. So I have this data here. I really need to analyze this data. The problem is that I can't analyze it correctly. You see, when I'm looking at this data, it looks like they have the date here, and then they have the different stores that the date was, checked off on. We'll say that they were inspecting the stores. We're just making it up. But that's not valuable data to me because I have no way to see what stores were checked on what days because it's all in one column here, the two stores here, and I want it to be separated. So essentially, I want to take this set of data and I want to change it over to something that looks like this, where it has January 1st, 2018, and then it has the first store, and then I can do, all right, January 2nd, 2018, and then I can do the second store. Or I'm sorry, let's do 1/2018, and then the second store. So essentially, why do I want to do this? Well, maybe I want to pull a report with all the 1003 stores and see how often they get checked. But the problem is I can't do that because they are all together in this one column. So I can't analyze the data correctly. So how can we use Power Query to actually help with analyzing our data? Well, Power Query is really for taking the data, transforming it into what you want to see, and then applying the analysis later. So really, I want you to think of Power Query as not the analysis tool, but the transformation tool that will help you along your path to analyze data. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to select all of this data by clicking Control A. I'm then going to go back to my data tab, go over to the from table / range, because remember, even though this isn't a table, it is still a range. I'll click from table / range. It's going to open it up. It's going to say, Joe, we're going to create a table for you before we put it into Power Query. Is that okay? I'm going to say, yes, it's okay. I have headers. Click OK. And now, boom, right into Power Query. So we have some work to do. The problem is that this just looks horrible right now. I can't do any analysis on it. So I'm going to have to split this column. But guess what? Power Query makes it super and user friendly to actually use these tools. And you'll notice that since I want to split this into different rows, well, they have a split column here. So I can actually split this column into whatever I want. That's huge because it's actually using terminology that makes sense to me. So I'm going to select the column and I'm going to select split column. Boom. I'm going to give that a click. And now I have to choose, what do I want to split by? Maybe I want to split by a position, amount of characters, maybe lowercase versus uppercase, or vice versa, uppercase versus lowercase, maybe by digit or non-digit, or by a delimiter. Now, if you don't know what a delimiter is, that is okay. It's simply a space, a comma, a colon, a semicolon, whatever it is that separates your entries of data. And here I notice that right now we're using a semicolon to separate each of the stores. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on split column by delimiter. And if Power Query is smart enough, it's going to, oh, there it is, semicolon. It already read my data and knew that those stores were being separated by a semicolon, so it put it there. Now, the problem I'm having though is that it's going to split this into other columns, and I don't want that. I want it to split into rows. So how do I overcome that challenge? Well, if you go into the advanced options, you'll say instead of splitting it into columns, we can split it into rows. And then when I click OK, watch the magic. Boom, 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 done. So quick, so efficient. Now I have each line with each store, and now I can be ready to analyze this data. So now what can I do to answer your question to actually analyze the data? Well, I'm going to close and load it into Excel, which is perfect, right? Now I can do whatever analysis I want. But you might be saying, Joe, that's cool, but how do I actually analyze and visualize this data? Well, there's thousands of ways to do that. So I'll show you an example. And I know this is a little off topic, but this could be something, if you really enjoy this, let me know in the comments, and I'll show you this in another episode. Uh, let's talk about Power BI with Power Query. You might be saying, well, Joe, I came here for Power Query. Well, the reason why I'm talking about Power BI is because it's directly related to Power Query. In order to use Power BI, it loads the data into a Power Query first so that you can transform it and then get your visualizations and your analysis. So let me show you how easy this is. And I'm going to show you in 9 minutes, or maybe 5. So I'm going to open up Power BI. By the way, Power BI is free. I always recommend that you download Power BI right now after this episode. Download Power BI. I promise you, you will be impressed. So we're going to let this load. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab some data. This is just the welcome page. You can exit that out. And I'm going to grab data from Excel, right? Watch how cool this is. It's all going to come together in a moment. It's pulling that data in, making the connection, and guess what it's going to do? It's going to say, Joe, where do you want your data? Which data set? I'm going to transform this because I see there's issues with it. And when I click transform, guess where it's going? Well, yeah, Power Query Editor. See, everything connects. So I'm going to just do this real quick for you. This is, once again, we're in Power Query. I see the 2 rows here that I don't need. They're all null, which means they're empty. I'm going to remove rows from the top, and I'm going to remove 2 of those rows, right? And click OK. Next up, I'm going to remove the bottom 4 rows, remove rows from bottom, 4 of them. And then I'm going to go over, see if there's any more little missing rows or anything. Oh, yeah, there are some blank columns here. I'm going to remove columns. We've used that button. And last but not least, I noticed that, and this will happen sometimes to you in Power Query. So once you start using Power Query, you're going to say, Joe, my headers, look at my headers. They're the first row. There's a button for that, watch. Use first row as headers. Boom. Now that I'm done transforming my data, I now have to analyze it some way. And I want to do that by visualizations. So I'm going to close and apply. It's going to load it into Power BI. And I'm going to create some quick dashboards and visualizations. And it, once again, is so amazing. It's all connected. Watch how cool this is. Let's add in there a clustered column. Let's have some fun. Let's analyze department by employee. Yeah, let's do that. Boom. One visualization. Let's do another one. Let's have fun with this. Let's do a map. Maybe I want to see how many employees I have per division. Boom. And if this is something you're interested in taking a look at, by all means, let us know in the chat box. I will do an episode on this. A lot of people like these visualizations. Let's do something fun. I'm going to do one more thing. You're going to say, Joe, you're nuts. A little bit. I'm going to get more visualizations. They have so many that you can use right away, but I love searching for new ways to present my data. Like this one's my favorite. Let's do that. Watch how cool this is. Ready? I want to see how many employees I have per division, and I want to see like this. How cool is this? Come on, we have a fish tank at the bottom. And if you just hover over the fish, it tells me that I have 15 employees in New Hampshire, I have 22 in Vermont, I have 27 in Maine, and I have 30 in Connecticut. Just a fun way to do this. We also have something called slicers, where we can create an interactive slicer by department. So if I just want to see my staff, I click it, look, everything changes. There's 4 staff members in Maine in the staff department. If I go to sales, all the fish change, 10. So you can sit here and make an interactive dashboard. And it goes hand in hand once again with Power Query because we had to first take it, transform it, and then load it. All right, so that's what Power Query is. It's kind of like that middleman. So let's do this now. I'm going to exit out of here and let's work on one more file that you have access to. Let's do date transformation. This one's going to be fun. All right, open up date transformation. So we have a little problem here. I'm just going to click on this little right triangle here at the top and double click so that everything looks pretty. So the problem is that we have these service dates, but they are in a different format. So they're in like a international format, and we don't like that. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to load it in, and we're going to just simply change it from the European format to the American format. So what I'm going to do is select the data, once again, Control A, go to data, from table arrange, it's going to load it in. I'm going to click OK. And what we're going to do is simply focus on the date because this can really mess up our analysis. See, in America, we don't have this format. Typically, it's going to be the month, the day, the year. But in European countries, it's the day, the month, the year. So this isn't really good for me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this column here and I'm going to transform it. You may notice that next to each column, there's a little ABC or a 1, 2, 3. Well, that's simply telling you what the format of the value is. So for instance, if I click on this ABC 1, 2, 3, you'll see a very familiar menu. You probably recognize it from Excel. And I can change this to date, but it's not going to do anything. It's already in a date format. What I need to use is something called using local. And when I click on it, using local, what it does is it takes our local settings here and our time, and it's going to swap it out with the format here. So it's just going to change the appearance from that European appearance to mine. So I'm going to click using local. It's going to pop up this dialog box. And now it's going to say, okay, we're going to change the date type and also select the local of origin. That's important to note, origin. So I'm going to go to date type, select what this is, and this data type is a date. After I do that, I'm going to say, okay, so what are we looking for here? What is the local origin? Well, I know this came from the United Kingdom. So I'm going to click the drop down. I'm going to go to United Kingdom. And what it's doing is it's telling Power Query to look for anything that looks like these and swap them out with anything that looks like this. I'm going to click OK and watch the magic here. What is this? 26/7/2009? Watch how cool. Boom. Done. So now I can close and load it. So it went from looking like this with messed up dates to this, to the American format. And you can do this vice versa. If we send something overseas, a European country can take those dates and transform them into their format, which is perfect. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed some of this data transformation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm not going to save that. And yeah, let's say our goodbyes. I hope I see a lot of comments here.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments. Looks like we had a lively conversation about if people like Power BI or not. Looks like Rogo does not like Power BI at all because he doesn't like Microsoft. I mean, I can get that. I mean, like Microsoft's a huge company. And,
Yeah.
you know, having them dictate how you do data and stuff like that is, you know, one company doing that is, you know, a little bit scary. But
Oh
everyone
yeah.
seemed to be really positive about Power BI, and a lot of people enjoyed those that fish tank data transformation you did. So I have an idea for a show we can do on that for sure. I'm going to reach out to a few people, and I think it'll be a nice little surprise for everyone here for a possible Power BI episode. So we'll work on that, guys. We'll definitely work on getting that Power BI episode going. And yeah, everyone seems to enjoy the live session. We're glad you do. You are. I mean, we're here every Thursday. And I just wanted to bring up the giveaway real quick. Just put Excel Today on Twitter. I'm going to randomly choose, whoever does it today. It's not a well-known one. I'll put it here in the chat. Hashtag Excel Today. And, if you put that on Twitter, we'll randomly select you. And again, you'll get free live training from us here from live from San Francisco, from one of our great trainers. It possibly could be Joe. It might be Joe. I know you're teaching Excel later today, Joe.
Oh yeah. I'm teaching day 2 today, and then day 3 tomorrow. Super fun. It's always fun to be able to really work one on one with everyone. I know in these sessions they're really so fast, and we only have half an hour time slot. But in those sessions, you have 6 hours of just personal time in a small group setting to ask your questions, to really have that time to be heard. So definitely, yeah. Uh, we appreciate it. Thank you for the comments.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I guess we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Next
Next
week,
week,
and
yeah.
Chris Mortimer will be here next week again, talking about the future of
Oh,
Excel VBA. That's a question we got asked a lot when Sean was here last week. It was also a question we got asked a lot when Chelsea was here for our first episode. Was what is
yeah,
the
yeah.
future of Excel VBA? So we will be here discussing what is the future of Excel VBA? Is it going to be put out to pasture, or is Python going to replace it, or is it going to be something that's always here with us? Running your macros and everything like that, and making that customized Excel experience for you. So we'll see you guys all next week.
Next week. Next week. Bye.